Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is 10 to Life. The case we're going to be talking about today is one that is twisted, targeted, and is currently ongoing. So smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and let's get into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
Hey guys, welcome back. As I was saying, my name is Elise and this is 10 to Life. You can see behind me I switched up my office a little bit, so there's a little bit different of a backdrop going on. Hope you guys like it. Hope it's a little bit cleaner. Everybody kept telling me that the mirror in my old one, depending on like how tall I was at the moment, it looked like I had horns coming out of my head. I don't know. So hopefully this is a little bit better. Okay, so before we jump into the case, I got to try something new a little bit for just a few minutes here, guys. As many of you guys know, I've been getting flagged left and right from YouTube, and somebody actually messaged me and said that they have heard through a credible source that if you don't say any of the words that YouTube doesn't like within the first 90 seconds to 2 minutes, that you may not get flagged. So, to be determined, but until we hit that 90 second to 2 minute mark, I'm just going to talk with you guys about some other stuff. And we're going to put this to the test. So, this is my new office. There's a little outlet right there. There's my beautiful blinds right here. What else? What else can I tell you guys? I don't know. I'm not very good at small talk. So, okay, enough of that. Hopefully we hit the 2 minute mark. Let's get into this case. So Elizabeth Redman is a 54-year-old woman who lives in Virginia, and she was last seen on or around October 24th. She was then reported missing in early November, just a couple of weeks later. In addition to Elizabeth, there was another missing woman named Tanita Smith, who is 39, also in Virginia. Tanita is the mother of 6 young children, and she was reported missing on November 19th, shortly after Elizabeth was reported missing. So who were these women? Why were they missing? How did they go missing so close in time together? And who is to blame? Well, police would soon find out that there were unfortunately many more missing women in this twisted case that would turn from missing to deadly. A man police have now dubbed as the shopping cart killer has now been linked to these 2 women as well as 5 total potential victims. And guys, this is truly out of a horror movie because it is suspected that this man preys on women, targets women, meets them on online dating profile like little apps and things like that, then lures them into hotels to meet him where he ultimately then beats them to death. Then he takes their body and transports it to a dumping site via a shopping cart. And that's how he got the name, the shopping cart killer. And when I first heard this story, and as I kind of start breaking it all down for you, I got this weird visual in my mind of like a Stephen King book or that movie Scream, where of like some man in the middle of the night with fog everywhere, just pushing a Target shopping cart with the body inside of it, just like creepy. I mean, this is like beyond scary. So this missing persons turned killing spree first began unfolding back in November of 2021 when police discovered the bodies of the 2 women who I mentioned earlier that were missing, Elizabeth Redman and Tanita Smith. Police discovered their bodies just 2 days before Thanksgiving. But remember, at this point, they had already been missing for approximately 2 to 3 weeks at this point before they were discovered by police. It's really interesting, and I'm going to talk more about this later on in this video, but police found their bodies a short distance from one another on that day. However, they reportedly had died at separate times. So was this a dumping ground for a deranged predator? Police began pulling video surveillance and also cell phone records to try to not only identify the women, but also identify who was responsible for these gruesome crimes. Who had they come into contact with and what was going on here? Luckily, soon into that research, police located a man named Anthony Robinson, just 35 years old. And apparently, each of the women had met with Anthony on separate occasions at a motel before they then vanished. And this goes back to the theory from investigators that they believe Anthony met his victims on dating websites such as Plenty of Fish and Tagged, and then lured them to these motels, ultimately killing them. With all of the evidence that had been gathered, Anthony was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in their deaths, as well as 2 felony counts of concealing, transporting, or altering a dead body. However, to everyone's surprise, this case was going to be far from over, and this list was about to get much longer. Cheyenne Brown, a 29-year-old woman from Washington, D.C., was about 4 months pregnant when she suddenly vanished back on September 30th of 2021. Cheyenne was then reported officially as missing just 2 weeks later. And what's interesting is while police were searching for Cheyenne, they came across flyers of another missing woman and learned of this woman's disappearance as well. And this woman was 48-year-old Stephanie Harrison of Redding, California. She was apparently in Washington at the time for a sightseeing trip back in August, and she also went missing. She last spoke with family on August 19th from DC, and now she, at this point when they discover this information, has been missing for nearly 45 days. According to the flyer, Stephanie suffered from schizophrenia and was off her medication before she vanished. And there was a quote on the flyer that read, "She is very vulnerable and gullible in her mental state." So now you have 2 more missing women. Again, pretty close within time as far as last known sightings to each other. And little did anybody know the answer to where Cheyenne and Stephanie were was about to come. Because on December 15th, 2021, 2 more bodies were discovered. Cheyenne and Stephanie were stuffed inside a container in a wooded area near a shopping cart that was near a motel. This motel was called the Moon Inn in Alexandria, Virginia. Now, at this point, Anthony was already in custody from the other 2 women. But remember, these women first went missing prior to that November arrest, back in August and September. So as police are looking into these new women and this new crime scene that they've stumbled upon, they determined that Anthony was communicating with Cheyenne through the dating site right before her disappearance. And cell phone records also indicated that Anthony and Cheyenne were in contact in and around the area close to that Moon Inn motel, right near that wooded area where the bodies were found. And again, remember, there was also a shopping cart there because this guy apparently likes to do his dirty work and then move the bodies to another location. Fairfax County investigators who were assisting DC missing persons detectives in the search for Cheyenne had initially looked for her at the Moon Inn motel, and they had no luck. But then, after receiving additional information, they returned to the hotel, expanded their search to that wooded area, and that's when they discovered not only Cheyenne, but also Stephanie. After this discovery, police stated, "We have found that Anthony has stayed at the Moon Inn motel on at least 5 other occasions, and we need to know more." As far as circumstance and Cheyenne crossing paths with Anthony, we know that they were talking on that dating app, allegedly, but authorities believe that Cheyenne had taken the metro from Washington, D.C., to the stop in Virginia on September 30th and then never returned home, and that Anthony was the last person to have seen her. So now you have 4 once missing women now discovered as deceased. And as if that weren't enough, the police were about to be hit with another bombshell. Just last week, police received a critical tip that might connect Anthony to another case, a 5th victim. And this victim was found inside the shopping cart in Washington, D.C. The body of Sonia Champ, a 40-year-old woman out of Washington, was found back on September 7th inside a shopping cart near Union Station. A passerby found Sonia inside the shopping cart, and she was just covered with a blanket. The passerby called police. Police came to the scene, but of course at that point, Anthony hadn't been in custody. They hadn't discovered any of these other bodies yet at this point, and so there was no connection made that this may possibly be a serial. In this recent discovery and connection, I should say, police say, "We believe this may be Anthony Robinson's 5th victim. This is based on digital evidence that puts him in the same vicinity around the time of the victim's disappearance. He preys on the weak, he preys on the vulnerable, and he does unspeakable things with his victims," the police chief says. Now that sentence stuck out to me, and he does unspeakable things with his victims, because still, as all of this information has started to surface, We don't know the exact cause of death for many of these women. We don't know what they endured at the hands of this monster. We don't know if because we do know that they met at a motel, allegedly, from the dating app, we don't know if there was ever any consensual sexual encounters that took place, any SA that took place. However, this statement leads me to believe that what these women went through was brutal, because the police chief is publicly saying he does unspeakable things with his victims. And we also know that Sonia was found inside that shopping cart just covered with a blanket. I don't even want my mind to wander as to what kind of brutality they must have experienced and what they went through, but I believe this statement is pretty telling. Sonia's mother told a news outlet over the weekend that it was a relief to know that the man suspected of killing her daughter may be behind bars, despite the painful emotions that this news dredges up. And she says, "I heard about it earlier today and I'm still comprehending everything. I didn't know what she died from. None of that. I have closure now. I'm at peace with it because now I really know what happened to my daughter." Now, this case gets even more interesting, and for me, it really starts raising a lot of questions in my mind. So the police chief said that officials have requested the support of the FBI, and particularly the FBI's Behavior Analysis Unit, because they want to learn more about Anthony. They want to know more about his mind, about his patterns, and his behavior. They also are partnering with Anthony's home state of New York and the police department out of there, as well as the police department in Virginia. And the police chief says, "Additionally, we are working on a victimology profile and hoping to get in contact with other women who may have encountered Anthony." And I feel like that's very interesting because they want the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit to come in and help them with this victimology profile to figure out who are the types of women that Anthony targets. Because I would imagine too, then they would go back to their database of missing persons and look at the locations and cross-reference all of the different things to see if there are any other potential victims out there. That's just my guess here. And I'm going to tell you why in just one second. So Anthony is currently being held at the Rockingham County Adult Detention Center in North Carolina on 2 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to 2 felony counts of concealing, transporting, or altering a dead body. The police chief says, "We believe that there are survivors out there. We remain very determined to continue to dig deep to get to the bottom of this." So this, for me, this is where it begs the question, okay? How many more victims are there out there at dumping sites and different dumping grounds? Or how many women encountered Aaron and then were lucky enough to get away? Because what's so interesting about this is Anthony does not have any criminal record. Nothing. And at least nothing that I've been able to scrub out. So he has no criminal record, guys. And I find it very hard to believe that this was a first-time thing, that somebody just went from zero to serial overnight. I find it very, very hard to believe. We also know that he allegedly transported his victims via a shopping cart into unknown destinations. So I can't help but wonder, could there be additional dumping sites where there are victims out there just waiting to be recovered? Because remember, the 2 first victims that we talked about in this entire case, Elizabeth and Tanita, their bodies were found right next to each other, but they had died at different times. So was this a dumping ground that he frequented? Does he have more? All of it kind of makes me suspect that there are probably more people out there. And I don't say that to be a pessimist, but because, again, I find it hard for somebody to go from zero to serial in just a matter of a couple of months. But also, I find it hard to believe that all of the sudden, if they have been finding bodies from randomly from September all the way to December, I find it hard to believe they're now capped out at 5 and they've found all of them. I would imagine there are going to be a few more popping up, not even including any of the women who came across Anthony and encountered him and got away. So if I were in law enforcement, my first thing, which I'm sure they're doing, would be to go through that dating profile, scrub it, see what messages are still there, see what metadata you can pull, and see what other locations he had been in over the last 6, 9, 12, 18 months. Other women that he had confirmed via message that he was going to meet up with. Are their names on any missing persons reports? Or can you get in contact with them to see what that encounter was like? I think that there's just so much more information that we need to get and that law enforcement, I would imagine, is sourcing right now to start figuring out how long has this serial been happening? How many more victims are out there? And what the heck is going on? And what was the cause? And I mean, there's just a lot of unanswered questions, right? Or do you think that this was just a killing spree for him and he was sloppy and that's how they found all these women and he got caught? What do you guys think? Calculated? Fleeting? Let me know in the comments below. And also, for all the women out there who are online dating, look, I get it. Online dating is, everybody does it. It's like the new standard, the new norm. I just highly, highly encourage you on a first date, please do not meet a stranger at an isolated, private place, just the two of you. Go to a public place, go for a drink, go for a meal, bring a friend, have them bring a friend for the first date. I don't know, but don't meet up with somebody one-on-one in an isolated, private place because you have no idea how many sickos are really out there. And it's just unfortunate, but a lot of people are preying easily through these apps, and so you can never be too careful, honestly. You always think you know someone, and 9 times out of 10, well, I don't want to say 9 times out of 10 because that'll be like, that's super jaded, but you know what I'm saying. You always think you know someone until you don't know someone. So be cautious, be alert, and please stay safe when you're doing all of that. As I mentioned, authorities are continuing to search for additional victims, for anyone with information about Anthony, whether that was on or off the dating sites. And they are encouraging anybody who has information to call the police department and submit those tips. And if you want to do so anonymously, you can call Crime Solvers by phone at 866-411-TIPS and submit that tip anonymously. I'll keep you guys updated with this case. I feel like there is a lot more we have to learn about this, and I feel like I kind of have a feeling we're going to see some more victims popping up here. I just have a hard time believing that all of a sudden now it's been randomly happening, month over month since September, and now we're at the finish line, especially when they don't even know the true victimology. They don't know, what his entire past and history is. There's something, I don't think that this is case closed. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. So I'll keep you updated as I learn more on this case. Thanks for tuning in with me on today's case video. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. If you want to show support for the channel, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, leave your comments below because I want to hear from you guys. And if you want to go the extra mile and get access to all those videos that YouTube flags and doesn't let me put up here, which is unfortunately lately a lot, you can do so by joining Patreon at the $1 tier. It's not $1 per video, it's just $1 for a lifetime, and you get all the videos that they don't let me upload on here. All right, guys, until the next case, stay safe. Bye.